Well, tell me your take on DEI.
Black folks, just know we have never been the DEI hires. It was never us. We always had to be 2 times as good. We always had to be 2 times smarter, 2 times faster, 2 times better, if not 10 times. So when it comes to DEI, for me, it's about recognizing solidarity. Certain corporations decided that they were going to just fall in line right away, and Walmart was one of them, and Target was another. So when Target did their rollback of DEI, Tabitha Brown was one of the first people to speak out and say, hey, y'all, I know so I got my products at Target. I would love if y'all would keep buying it because I'm under contract. And again, no shade. Like she was as transparent as she could.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I get it. If y'all want to boycott this company in solidarity for this particular, political action, I support that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna hurt people like me.
Yeah.
And it's gonna hurt smaller business owners who are not on a national stage like she is.
Yeah.
But her positioning was like a baby boycott. And my positioning was, no, it needs to be all or nothing.
What's up, Vibes fam? Welcome to another episode of Queer Vybez. I am your host, Tabitha Brown, and I have a special guest in the house today, Miss Keisean. Welcome to Vibes Entertainment, the Queer Vybez episode. I'm so excited to have you as my guest today, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself. But before you do, I have a special announcement.
Okay.
Vibes Entertainment is now a podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast, welcome to the first episode of our podcast featuring beautiful Keisean. And yeah, I'm excited to start a podcast. So if you're listening, thank you for the support. If you're joining me on the channel and you're watching, thank you also. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. You're in for a treat. So welcome, Ms. Keisean.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Keisean Raines, and I am the calm coach amidst a lot of other things. But I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah.
Podcasting is like, I'm a nerd when it comes to podcasting.
Yeah.
I probably watch more podcasts than I do anything else on TV except for really I've already seen. Because that's my learning style.
Okay.
Like I need to listen and watch over and over again. That's how I find out a lot about news. That's how I find out about what's going on culturally.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot from listening to podcasts. I've gotten book recommendations, person relevant, all kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I think there's more than one way to to see some of your content. And to check you out, because I love your Instagram videos, your Instagram reels.
Thank you.
They're hot. Go check them out if you haven't seen, because the information that you share, like I was telling you earlier, like it was inspiring for me just to see you as like a queer individual that looks like me, that it like you're very reflective of the culture, and I love the information that you share, and you're so wise and knowledgeable. And so it's okay if we don't have the podcast, because you do have a social media.
I appreciate that,
and you share a lot of beautiful content. So
thank you.
Yeah.
It's definitely Instagram likes me right now, so that's cool or whatever. I was on Instagram for like a decade, and I don't think I've ever gotten this much attention I've gotten in the last like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about this a little bit, but I think it's because of what I'm talking about right now that's grabbing people's attention.
Yeah.
And thankfully, most of the feedback that I've gotten has been super positive.
Yeah.
People are sharing resources. I've gotten people DMing me like links to different like other programs or ways that they can support.
Yeah.
Because the one video that I guess got the most attention was one where I was calling out a specific well-known Black woman creator, influencer, etc., who I have no beef with, for the record. I love we have no beef. Okay. I've never met this woman in my life.
Yeah.
But it was around the time that the DEI rollout started to go public around certain companies.
Yeah.
And one particular company rolled out its, DEI rollback. And one particular person who has product in their store did an Instagram reel all but encouraging Black folks to keep shopping there except just buying Black-owned products.
Right.
And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap on that. We're gonna wrap on.
We'll get back to that. But once I understood that, Instagram was like, oh, hello. And I was like, oh, okay. And it kind of went from there.
Yeah, because it's a very relevant topic. I think it's on the hearts of many, the 92%ers for sure. And we get to talk about it because I got some questions And that's also a part of the reason I invited you on the space and in the space is because your opinions on some of the relevant, topics that are happening in the nation is I love your take on it.
Thank you.
And I want to challenge it a little bit too.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like I used to be a person who was consciously aware of the news.
Yeah.
However, I'm not a person who would like sit and watch the news because legacy media has never quite been what it once was.
Yeah.
And recognizing that the news is a television show, just like many other television shows.
Mm-hmm.
And there were components of it that just felt like it was a litany of negative information.
Yeah.
For the purpose of causing shock and awe constantly to keep people in a state of fear.
That's what it is.
So I just stopped engaging with it.
Yeah.
And so I would get news from podcasters because they're giving me like, okay, this is what you need to know.
Yeah.
This is what you could look more into.
Yeah.
And so when I decided to start making content this year, I started with the intention of I want to become a subject matter expert on what they're talking about these days. Enough to where I can share it with people in a way that's plain, that's direct, that's relatable, and encourages critical thinking.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes people act as though critical thinking is like a crime. And as of now, it's not.
Yeah.
So I hope that when people watch anything online, that it starts conversations.
Yeah.
And I love when people will be like, what about this? And have you thought about that? I'm like, actually, I haven't. I love to learn. I'm a super inquisitive person.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of creating conversations that invite discourse, and that invite debate in some cases.
Yeah.
But the goal is to maintain a level of respect and civility, which doesn't necessarily happen.
Not on the socials. Not on these your socials.
Well, not on the socials. No.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, we get to talk about it.
Okay.
We get to dive in deep. And I wanted to create a long form platform for you to be able to just share.
Yeah. So not a lot of time. You try to get it in as fast as
Yeah. But I want to jump in with you about the LA fires.
Okay.
We both live in Long Beach.
Yeah.
So thankfully we were not affected by the fires.
Right.
Not directly.
Right.
But for sure, these LA fires are definitely devastating.
Yeah.
I loved your messaging around the LA fires and like how we can just take care of ourselves and support each other and just move through something as devastating as this.
Yeah.
But like, what's your take when you first heard about the fires? Like what did you do? How did you feel? And how are you feeling now about it?
Like you said, we both live in Long Beach.
Yeah.
I'm from Southern California. So we have like fire season.
Yeah.
But it typically happens in the summertime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for fires to pop up in January when we get the Santa Anas, which for those who don't know is basically like hot ass wind. And we just got a lot of those at that particular time. I think what wasn't surprising is that most of the news coverage was centered around what was happening in the Palisades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though there was equal levels of devastation in the Eaton fires, but it was impacting a different community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think initially the feeling of, are we going to be putting these fires out or are we going to just let them burn?
Yeah.
Because I'm not a firefighter or a fire expert, but last time that I checked, I believe there is a method to putting out fires and containing them, but then there's also something called intentional burns. And not necessarily arson, but intentional burning for the sake of like balancing the amount of, forestry or whatever that's out there. But what I also discovered as I started to dig a little bit deeper is when there are intentional burns in, shall we say, highly coveted areas where certain people might be interested in occupying said area for new developments.
Yeah.
Sometimes those intentional burns could have otherwise been contained. And I think in this case, that was what took place. And I think the way that it impacted, particularly the community in Altadena, which is part of like the Eaton area that was impacted. I have family members who lost their homes in Altadena.
Yeah.
Homes that have been in their families for generations.
Yeah.
And so the impact that has on a community where up until the 1950s and 60s, Black folks weren't even allowed to own property in that particular area because of redlining and other politicizing of home ownership. So for them to be able to go in and buy these homes in the late 50s and still some of them be living in these homes until a couple of weeks ago was devastating. And I noticed that what was happening, again, in mass media was devastation, 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 but there was no hope that was coming through. And so a lot of what I noticed on social was, yes, it's important for us to be informed. Yes, it's important for us to talk about where people can donate and come out and support. But can we also talk about how this is impacting people's mental health and people's well-being? And I wasn't seeing a lot of that. So I felt like I needed to say something.
Absolutely. And like I said, I loved your videos because for me, I was like, this is a huge traumatic devastation that's happening to LA. You wouldn't think LA. Right. You're like, all of LA is burning down, just like that. And for days and weeks. And I'm like, where are these firefighters? Like, why can't we put this out? Oh, we're inviting firefighters from Mexico. Like, it just kept getting worse and worse. And so for me, although I wasn't directly, and you know, the alerts went out, right? The evacuated alerts, when you got on the phone, evacuation alert, I was like, well, it's like, we're nowhere near these fires. But but emotionally, I was just devastated, and I'm like, how do we get through this? How do we rebuild? I can imagine people directly being affected, because indirectly, I mentally it was really hard. So your videos were very inspiring. I'm like, okay, we get to take a few breaths. Okay, let's just come together and support each other in the best way possible. Let's just like go volunteer or give money or whatever. So
I think a lot of people just didn't know what to do.
Exactly.
And I think like you said, collectively, globally, we all experienced the pandemic. And there was a lot of shock and awe that was around that experience. We didn't know what to do. It was completely unknown. We had no idea if it was containable, what was going to happen. Fires were like, okay, we know what fires are.
Okay.
We know how that can be impactful, but they weren't thinking about the fallout. They weren't thinking about how it was going to affect the air quality. They weren't thinking about where people were going to go. And I think that's something that it hasn't even really been 2 months since the fire started or ended. Thousands of people were displaced. And most people who get displaced because of a loss of a home, they never come back. If you think about what happened in Hurricane Katrina, the people who were displaced in New Orleans, they've never returned. So this is one of those moments in history where folks will look back 20 years from now and say, remember when those fires drove all those Black folks out of Altadena and they never came back? Remember what happened in the Palisades where they got rid of all those houses and now there's these different houses there that were there before? Or like media coverage talked about like celebrities and stuff losing homes. And it's like, okay, yes, they're people too. Shade to celebrities. However, their access to resources to rebuild looks significantly different than a person who was a civic servant or a bus driver or a school teacher who inherited a home. They're never going to recover from that. And I think that as a person who, aside from podcasting and doing social media, I work in mental health. And so I'm a consultant and I work with nonprofits centered around recovery and mental health services. And so when I saw this happening, I started reaching out to local organizations like, how are we supporting these people? Donation centers are one thing, but who's going to be here to offer grief counseling? Who's going to be here to offer some support for people who are struggling with recovery and stuff like that? So it was rough. It still is.
I think I do remember a few people that I know in the wellness space, like just trying to come together to like organize, and myself included, to just organize some kind of emotional support system for those devastated or affected, because it's traumatic. Like to lose all of your things, all of your home, your safety net, a place where you come home and just lay your head and like, just not have to be affected by the world. Like that's your little safe space, and then it's gone. So it's like, what do you do? But I want to jump into a little bit of like these theories, conspiracy theories,
critical thinking theories is what we call them.
I like that.
Conspiracy implies that it's not real.
I like it. There's been a few, circulating around. And one is like, the Olympics is coming to LA. So they were like, okay, how about we tear down LA and rebuild for these, for the Olympics to come. And so LA looks amazing and is like ready and beautified and prepared for these, international people to come through.
Wouldn't it be nice to put some hotels in Malibu?
Listen. Right. And then so like what is your theory around these LA fires? And do you believe that there's a spiritual component to that?
I think I'll start with that. There's always a spiritual component.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Like everything that's happening to us humans having this, spirits having this human experience, there's always a spiritual component. There's always a natural reset. There's always like Earth saying, oh, y'all are messing it up. Here's a hurricane.
Yeah.
Let me cleanse. Or here's some fire. Let me cleanse. And I think depending on which Earth element is chosen to create this cleansing, if you will, they're all equally devastating.
Yeah.
It's water, fire, wind. And so I think there's definitely a spiritual component that said there's so much division that's happening right now just as a nation.
Yeah.
After the election, et cetera, et cetera. So coming into the new year where people are still kind of like grappling with what was taking place politically or is taking place politically, the fires in LA in particular created an opportunity for people to show their humanity. It created an opportunity for people to show up and support, to donate, to offer their time, to volunteer, to their neighbors in a way that they maybe never had before.
Yeah.
And I think we benefited from that on a spiritual level. I think as far as why the fires and why now, I think it has a lot to do with Los Angeles wanting to beautify itself prior to staying the 2028 Olympics. They're making changes in Long Beach too.
Are they?
Setting things on fire per se.
Yeah.
But they're definitely moving the unhoused from certain areas and displacing them and disposing of them in other places so that they can build new things that are attractive to Olympians or media or it's the Olympics.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl was one thing.
Yeah.
When we had the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This is the Olympics. This is a world stage.
Yeah.
And so I think that when it comes to trying to figure out like the theories behind what's going on, you always follow the money. And that's going to give you your answer every single time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people, specifically in real estate development, they're greedy. They don't care. And people lose their homes. They don't care.
Yeah.
People are displaced. They just want the land.
Do you feel it was intentional, these fires?
I think the delay in the containment was intentional.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, there's theories of people that were like, oh, there were arsonists and someone started the fires. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. Yeah. But I think the delay in containment was intentional for a couple of reasons. One, California doesn't own its water. And I know that's like a whole thing. California's water was privatized by one particular couple who we talked about earlier, who also owns another water company. Labels we are not advocating for. But because of the privatization of water sources, there was not access to water the way that was necessary.
Yeah.
And then when the federal government, under the current administration, decided to get involved, instead of delivering water to LA County, water was dumped in Central Valley of California, which is over 100 miles away from the most active fire. So the need to call in firefighters from other parts of the country and other parts of the world is a result of a lack of resources specifically for the LAFD, even though the LAPD is substantially funded. And so there's so many layers to why it took so long to contain them. And while bureaucracy and politics and government and finance, they all have departments and things take time and everything has a process. However, we saw similar action when a certain president took a long time to respond to the people that were affected in New Orleans after Katrina. How many days did those people wait for FEMA to show up? How many people lost their lives and their homes because of a preventable situation that took place as a result of a natural disaster?
Yeah.
So I think the fires were a natural disaster, but the delay in containment, I think, was intentional.
Yeah. And also, too, recently, they just fired the LA Fire Department chief.
The black lesbian lady?
No. I think she's Hispanic. I want to say she's Hispanic, but not lesbian.
She's definitely gay.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not.
maybe I'm labeling up like her title may be wrong, but they just recently fired, like the fire chief. She's Hispanic because I saw it on the news like yesterday. But Karen Bass had like fired her because of her not being,
So like passing the buck of blame to her.
Yeah, because according to from what I heard, she had firefighters that were available but like got sent home, or she didn't like call in like firefighters in time. That I'm sure y'all can look it up, but yeah, but she, because of the devastation and how it was handled, like they fired the LA chief.
So I think even that can be traced back to, how do we get rid of this person?
Yeah,
We don't like this person to be in this situation. So how can we get rid of this person? Not to say that it's always like that, but so often it is.
Yeah.
And like what I've started to recognize is sometimes the obvious answer is the answer, no matter how devastating or disappointing or disgraceful it might be.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is exactly what it is. Yeah. We're seeing that even play out with the federal administration and what's happening on a presidential level. Like, wow, they're really just doing whatever they want to do when they ask. Yeah, they're doing it. Of course it's happening on the local level. Of course it's happening on the state level. And it's like, it doesn't change how important it is for people to still be informed and for people to still be involved. Yeah. And for people to still be like activated to want to disrupt it. Yeah. And change it. And I think that's what's hard for people, is being like tuned in with what's happening can be exhausting. It can be overwhelming. It can create so much anxiety and discomfort to the point where people just kind of want to put their head in the sand and make it all go away. Yeah. Which is why for me, because my foundation is in wellness and advocacy, no matter how much information that I give people, my bottom line is take care of yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Because you can't do anything. Yeah. If you're not well. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. That was like your underlying message throughout most of your reels and videos. So, I think with the, I think I don't know, we don't know to the depths of like what, why, who, when, where, but I know everyone, because I remember when they first approached Karen Bass, they showed her like coming off the flight, and I was like, this poor lady, like she, is trying to figure it out like the rest of us, and even Governor Newsom, and I think everyone was caught off guard. Yeah. I don't know if they knew, but they seemed caught off guard with what was happening. So I'm sure that pressure from the fire chief or whatever title that she has there for the fire department, I'm sure there was pressure for her too. And like, how do you respond to such a devastation? Because it went on for weeks. I woke up like the next day, I was like, okay, it should be gone. It should be done. It should be put out. And it just kept going and going. It
was going. It was in Hollywood, like the Sunset area. Yeah. My sister's lives in West Hollywood. They had to evacuate like a day or so. And like I said, then there was like the miss alerts that were going out. Yes, that weren't even as high spot. Everybody got the app, and it was like, it was like you said, without necessarily knowing the details, because we may never know exactly who benefited from this until years from now. Right. But I think that it's such a double-sided coin, because on the one hand that it was devastating, but on the other hand, I think that it woke some people up, as these things often do, to recognize how little their government actually cares about them. Yeah. How completely like criminal insurance companies can be.
That part.
Because there were insurance companies that notified their insured less than 90 days before the fires that their policies were no longer going to cover.
Yeah, that's a lot sketch. A lot sketch.
By the way, we're not going to cover fires anymore. Like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Or just the behaviors of developers that will approach previous homeowners and say, oh, so you didn't own your land. Yeah. So your insurance company only covered the cost of your house being rebuilt. So we can actually just relocate you somewhere else. Yeah. Because you'll never be able to come back and live in this particular neighborhood again. And yes, people who just don't even understand the process of like filing claims for insurance. So it was nice to see attorneys and other real estate professionals who showed up to offer their services to support people.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
And for free. Yeah.
For free.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice. What do you think because like the specific areas, right, was like there's many little mini fires happening all throughout like LA County, but like there was Pacific Palisades and then the Altadena fires. Why do you think specifically, like, because they're two different, right, like communities and populations, like what do you think is the difference? Like, why do you think they targeted Pacific Palisades? And we know why they targeted Altadena, but that's what someone would argue and be like, well, they intentionally burned down the white neighborhood and also the black neighborhood. So, you know.
I mean, I'm going to give you like an extreme comparison just for fun.
Yeah.
For the same reason why they eliminated an entire population of people in the Gaza Strip. Want the land.
Yeah.
They want the land. They don't care who's there.
Yeah.
They don't care if they're rich, poor, black, white. We want the land.
Yeah.
Get off of it.
Yeah.
They're not gonna, like the residents of the homeowners, we're not gonna just passively sell us their homes.
Yeah.
They weren't gonna just leave.
Yeah.
So we can remove them.
Yeah.
And then the Eaton fires isn't just Altadena, but it was Altadena, which was a highly coveted area.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The homes are beautiful. The landscaping is beautiful. Some of the best high schools in the country are there. That was about displacing a certain community or population of people as well. And because geographically speaking, when people look at like the pathway of the fires, Pacific Palisades was nowhere near Eaton. Fires don't, I mean, maybe they fly. I don't know. Again, I'm not a firefighter or a fire expert, but maybe it flew. But they say, of course, the wind, picked things up. The embers ended up over there. But I think the intentional displacement of thriving Black communities is something that has happened in this country since Reconstruction.
Because it started with the Pacific Palisades first.
It started there.
And then
it jumped.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. I didn't think of it that way.
So there's like what do you call it? Like deep theories. Now this might go a little bit on the conspiracy path, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's theories that another reason they chose the Palisades is because of the number of laborers who worked in those homes, the nannies, the gardeners, the so-and-sos. They wanted to be able to like flush them out because these are deep that were like, oh, these white folks are employing all these, laborers and quote unquote migrant workers in the home. So how can we get these folks out in the open?
Interesting.
Terrible. But yes, interesting for sure.
Yeah. I'm sure we can rap on and on about this, but I just wanted to, see what your opinion was, like your more in-depth opinion on on those fires.
The thing about what's happening right now, the LA fires, the executive orders coming from the White House, the rollbacks, what's happening with immigration, what's happening with women's rights, what's happening with trans rights, all this stuff is happening at the same time. Because the goal is to create submission. There is no better way to wear people down and to prevent them from resisting than to tire them the fuck out. And so that's what's happening.
Yeah.
The media has committed to shock and awe method, which is literally a military method to just overload someone with information to the point where they're not able to tell what's real. They don't know what's accurate. They're not sure what to trust. They're scared.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit mad.
Yeah.
But they're not mad enough to do anything because they're scared.
Yeah.
And so the reason why we've gotten like this barrage of information in the last 6 weeks is because the goal is to suppress Americans back to sleep. Too many people are quote unquote woke, even though they colonized that word. Yeah, I'll be woke. Too many people had started to wake up. Too many people had started to get to become active.
To speak out.
Too many people had started to speak up. Too many people started asking questions. And they knew that when the 2024 election went the way that it did, that people were going to act up. And so they're like, ooh, okay, so let's redirect some of this energy. And let's put them in fear and let's continue to create divisiveness. And so I think whether it's the LA fires, the DEI rollbacks, what's happening with immigration, it's being done so intentionally and so strategically that very few people are even aware that it's happening to them. because we're in it.
Yeah. And then that's why this one of the reasons I wanted to have this discussion just like openly, like let's really talk about it. Like what's happening for us like is not okay, but we get to speak on it, we get to talk about it, and we get to find solutions and ways to take care of ourselves through it.
Yeah.
So let's roll on to no pun intended, DEI. Let's roll forward to let's talk about DEI, right? It's some bullshit. It's just it's disheartening.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad to it came about what 1960
DEI's been in place
62
early 70s.
70s.
Late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah. It's been in place for a while. So
it wasn't just about Black people or brown people. It was actually to benefit white women.
Yes, I'm glad you said it. Because I've been doing a little bit of research on it, and it came back to like, no, DEI is really to, support white people, which is interesting because like we all are like, no, we're minorities, it's gonna affect all of us, blah, blah, blah. But let's talk about it. So specifically, we're gonna roll on to Tabitha Brown. We can say her name. No,
I do have some of the outfits. No, but yeah.
But yeah, well, tell me your take on DEI. And
I saw something today, like before I came in, and it was just like this Black creator on TikTok who said, Black folks, just know we have never been the DEI hires. It was never us. We always had to be 2 times as good. We always had to be 2 times smarter, 2 times faster, 2 times better, if not 10 times. So we always got hired on merit.
Yeah.
For the record.
Yeah.
But when it comes to DEI, for me, it's about recognizing solidarity, because there are people who, were it not for whether it was a physical disability, whether it was their gender, or it was their race or ethnicity, would not have gotten in the door. It's not to say we've never, quote unquote, benefited from it, but that wasn't the case for us.
Yeah.
And so when the rollback started happening, which for the record, when the federal government decided to implement this DEI rollback, it was specifically for federal organizations or organizations that were under federal contract, the government, which is not every single privately owned corporation. There are many, but not all.
Yeah.
But what was also written into that was for the private corporations that didn't kind of like follow suit and roll back their DEI, that they could experience like fines or some kind of, punitive action from the government.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like the government said, you better shut down your DEI.
Yeah.
It was like, you should, if you're in contract with us.
Yeah.
If you're not in contract with us, it might be a good idea, or we might fine you. But it's like, yeah, it might be a good idea not to go 95 on the 405 because you might get a ticket, but that's it. I'm not going to do it anyway if that's a place to be. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like certain corporations decided that they were going to just fall in line right away. And Walmart was one of them, and Target was another. And I mean, there's a bunch of others.
Yeah.
So when Target did their rollback of DEI, Tabitha Brown was one of the first people to speak out and say, in her lovely little Southern drawl, hey, y'all, I know so I got 9 products at Target. I would love if y'all would keep buying them because I'm under contract. Yeah. And again, no shade. Like she was as transparent as she could.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I get it. If y'all want to boycott this company in solidarity for this particular, political action, I support that. But it's going to hurt people like me.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt smaller business owners who are not on a national stage like she is.
Yeah.
But her positioning was like a baby boycott, like a baby cot. Yeah. Like, don't really boycott. Still come shop here, but only buy the Black stuff.
Yeah.
And my positioning was, no, it needs to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
Tabitha Brown doesn't own the products that are in Target.
She doesn't own her own products.
Those are Target's products that they put her name on. Just like when Kathy Ireland had products at Sears, the white lady who was like a young handy. So get that up. Some people don't. But those are not hers. Because when you go to Tabitha Brown's website, you can't buy Target from her. You can't buy those outfits. You can't buy those journals.
Really?
No. So people, look up what private labeling is. Private labeling is a way that large corporations will put someone's name on a product in order to sell said product. If I wanted to sell, a water bottle, and you happen to be huge in the Black community, and I want to get people to buy this water bottle, I'm going to put your name on it.
Yeah, but what about like her spices and
Got owned by McCormick, the seasoning company.
Yeah.
Those are on hers. She owns, sorry, my hair is in my eyes. She owns Donna's Recipe, which is the hair company. That's privately owned. She built that with her own money.
So that is technically the only thing she can sell on her website.
She owns
really
her and her merch, not her Target merch like the swimsuits and the jumpsuits.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
That's not hers. Because if it was hers, what would she do with it? She would take it off those shelves as soon as her contract's in and sell it on her website.
And that's where I was. I was like, okay, Tabitha, we hear you, but why can't you sell your products on a website? Let us go to the website and directly support you. Like we cut out Target, all of the middlemen, and just buy your products directly.
Yeah.
But she doesn't always know the product.
No, if I make candles. During COVID, that was my COVID. I took down my candles.
Okay, you still sell them now?
I could sell them.
So you make them
in a while.
Okay,
It's been like 6 months, but
yeah,
I make candles. I buy the wax, I buy the materials, I buy the containers, I set the price points. I sell direct to consumer or DTC. So if you are a product designer and you can sell direct, that's beneficial to you because you got direct.
Yeah,
in case you take a middleman. Yeah, of course, if you want to reach a broader audience, you go into a distribution agreement with a larger corporation like a Target or a Walmart, and you get shelf space. That's one type of agreement where it's my product,
right? Except
I'm sort of like leasing shelf space from Target or selling my products on like consignment to Target or selling it wholesale.
Okay.
And I go into an agreement for shelf space. For Tabitha's products, they did a collaborative product development and distribution agreement.
Okay.
Which means they said, this is our product. We own this and we keep it at our house.
And we just putting your name on it and
in your face.
Yeah.
Branding and all the things. And so again, from a business standpoint, I get it.
Yeah.
You don't want to affect your bottom line. But from a political standpoint and an activism standpoint, I was like, nah, it's got to be all or nothing, y'all. We can't sort of boycott. We have to do it all the way.
Yeah, but to speak to those that are like, well, if we just buy Black-owned products in Target, then we could still support our people.
Yeah.
I think I was very torn. I was like, well, Tabitha, and I get where, I get where she's coming from. I understand the circumstances that she's in. She's in a contract. To break that contract, she would have to pay Target.
She'd have to pay. Yeah. And I don't even know if she could pay Target. And even if she did, she wouldn't be able to get her products.
Yeah. So then it's like, well, my heart breaks for Tabitha because I'm like, I get it. This sucks. It's like the worst time to like have products in Target.
No.
But it's like, to those people who are like, no, let's still support Tabitha and the Black-owned products. Like, what do you say to that? Because I get it. I'm like, why not? I want to support her. I mean, I personally don't shop at Target or Walmart, so
I always think it's a personal choice. Yeah. And that's one thing I believe has been a through line of anything that I posted on Instagram recently is like, this is what I think.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. This is what I think is right.
Yeah.
I'm providing you, listener, viewer, with information that has been fact checked, trust me, and you decide.
Yeah.
It's a matter of like what sits right with you. Yeah. There was a time, even during the Montgomery bus boycotts in the 1960s, everybody Black didn't decide not to ride the bus. Mm. Some people were like, fuck that. I've had to get as far. I'm not why I get to the job. I don't want to carpool. I don't want to walk. I don't want to leave early and ride the bus.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case throughout history. When it comes to activism, it's never going to be everybody who participates. There's going to be some who participate at what some would consider a more extreme level, which is a full-on boycott.
Yeah.
There's going to be some who participate in like what they call like a partial divestment, where I'm only going to this particular retailer to buy these particular products. That happened like when some people would only buy like kosher products from a grocery store or whatever. So for people who are feeling torn or they're just uncertain about what's the best way to support.
Yeah.
If they say, I'm going to go to Target, but I'm just going to buy the Black products. Okay, well, that's great.
Yeah.
But if you really think of it from a financial support perspective, back to the example of the candles, I make my candles.
Yeah.
I buy the materials. If I set a price point that's $25 a candle and I ship it to you direct, I'm going to make my $25.
Yeah.
Minus costs.
Yeah.
But if I sell my candle at Target and they sell it for $35, I'm still only getting $25.
Yeah.
So it doesn't benefit me financially for you to buy it from them. I'd rather you just buy it directly from me.
Yeah.
And so I think when people consider what's the best way for them to show solidarity, whether it's for DEI or anything else, it's a matter of what sits right with you.
Yeah.
If it were you, what would you want people to do?
Yeah.
And the reality is capitalism is a sneaky bitch. And we operate in a capitalist system. And unfortunately, there's nothing wrong with making money. I think money is great. But sometimes people do have to be willing to sacrifice their dollars or sacrifice some of their profit in order to actually make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
And that was the video that got people's attention.
Yes.
Instagram. So
yeah. And convenience too, because we had a conversation about that. Because it's, if you've known like, okay, these products are at Target and you haven't gone anywhere else to shop, and or even like online, because you can shop online at Target, right? Just to get these products, and you're having a difficult time finding the products, elsewhere, you don't want to, put your money in the business and be like, let me, this right there. Like, let me get, like for me, I'm having a challenge with Amazon, right? I'm like, love me some Amazon. I don't shop often at Amazon, but when I do, it's convenient. I'm getting it the next day or same day sometimes, or same day in a few hours, and particularly I shop for my deodorant there.
Oh, yeah.
I think Mega Babe is what it's called, and it's like aluminum free, and I love the clean products. But then I was like, oh, I need more deodorant. And I found myself like, no, I'm not touching that Amazon app. I'm just not, like, my soul just didn't want to. I was just like,
yeah,
but I really need to see. But I looked up their site. I was like, okay. And they're actually selling it for like $1 more on the site. And I was like, if that, don't I spend $1 more?
And it's like, it's $1.
Yeah.
And if you have Prime, you got to pay for membership anyway.
Yeah.
So it's in it. I think the convenience piece is a valid piece, but that also speaks to convenience and comfort and complacency. And so what happens is that over time, those conveniences make us complacent.
Yeah.
Until the government does something we don't like, and we're like, hey, wait a minute. And the government's like, we end up with that. It does require discipline.
Yeah.
It does require a little extra time.
Yeah.
It does require community as well.
Yeah.
Because like, I've had people in the comments who have mentioned things like, excuse me, I live in a rural town. I don't have a lot of small businesses where I'd shop because they've been wiped out quite literally by these larger corporations. Yeah. Because in rural towns, there used to be Mr. Jones Butcher Shop, this Jenkins Wig Shop. You can go get your little stuff, but then Walmart comes in, wipes them out, and that's all they have left. Yeah. Or Target comes in, does the same thing, and they have no choice but to go there. Yeah. And so my hope is that if there is a Costco, if there is a co-op grocery store, and there's 5 people in your neighborhood who want to participate in the boycott, collective action is what moved the needle in the 60s. And as much as we like romanticize what happened in the 60s, that was cool. It wasn't that long ago. Yeah. Who cares if all the videos are in black and white? It wasn't that long.
It really was not. Yeah.
The only reason why they were able to make the progress that they did is because they did it collectively. Yeah. And so we've gotten to a place where people don't know their neighbors and don't talk to each other. Everybody's kind of got their head down in their screen. So to be able to participate in something like a boycott in the grocery store, it might mean, hey, I'm going to Costco. Does anybody need anything from Costco? Go ahead and give me your grocery money. I got you. I'll bring it back. But it's like, that takes a lot of courage for people to do that. And I don't know how many people are there yet. Yeah.
And it's not comfortable or convenient to like go outside of yourself and be like, yo, you want something? You want that? You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're not, well, if they're your neighbor and you haven't even like had a conversation with them. But I think these things actually are bringing us closer together, actually. There's certain instances where it's creating a divide, because some Black folks are like, yo, I saw a video, they're like, yo, y'all doing Tabitha so dirty. Like, I'm not with that. I think the name of the video was like, I'm not with that Black people. And like her video was like, why are y'all doing Tabitha like that? And people are coming for her. I was like, you don't need to come for her though.
I think it's like, I'm not coming for her on a personal level. Yeah. My perspective was, this is a boycott. This is not. Yeah. This is what this looks like. This is something different. And giving people the choice of saying like, if Tabitha Brown walked in this room, I'm like, what's up, fam? How are you? Congratulations. You did the thing. You rode the wave for 11 years. and made your mark, and you are now a household name. And what I appreciated about what she said is similar to what I'm saying is it's up to you.
Yeah.
Y'all do what feels right for you.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to continue supporting Target, by all means.
Yeah.
If you don't, I get that too.
Yeah.
You know, but if you do decide to divest from that particular corporation, don't stop supporting those Black-owned products.
Yeah.
And I think to your point about the convenience thing is if I buy, you know, shampoo from Ledoux or whatever, and they sell, or the Dew, and they sell it at Target, and I go to their website and they're like, oh, we can't ship it to you. Well, how am I supporting you?
Yeah.
Most of them you have an opportunity to.
Yeah. 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 Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you on that. I was like, let me take a breath.
It's not easy. You need to take the breath.
Yeah.
And that's what, I mean, I feel like what I'm learning, like a friend of mine who I've known for like 20 years was like, are you an activist now? I'm like, man, I'm in all this. I'm just talking about it on the internet. This is not new for me.
Yeah.
But I think something that when we study history and we think about the activists of the past or the disruptors of the past, we don't know what they did to take care of themselves. The time them died young.
Yeah.
Or assassinated.
Yeah.
And we don't know what they did when they got home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Did they take a nap? Were they eating?
Yeah.
Were they meditating? Were they going for walks? Were they talking to somebody? Did they have counsel? I think the well-being component is what makes activism different today.
Yeah.
Than it was back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that we now have so many resources to be able to be well and take care of ourselves. And people like you who are in the wellness spaces that are like, hey, are you taking care of yourselves? Here's some ways that you can take care of yourselves through these like very challenging times. But yeah, this administration, all the things that they are, that this administration is, and all the things that they're putting in place to kind of like, you know, control the queer community and like minimize our rights and our self-expression and just to be. Yeah. It's already hard enough.
It's already hard
to be Black and queer. Yeah. Happy Black History Month, by the way. To be Black and queer, to just be queer, period, in this nation, in the world. So to have Mr. Orange Man come out. Not heard of that one, but I love that. Yeah. Cheeto Monster, Orange Man come out and like really like put these regulations in place to just minimize us as a community. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. Because someone called this era the Great Regression.
Ooh, it's a good word.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Jade Fox that credit. But yeah, it really is, because you're speaking to the 60s and how like far we've come, and like some of the queer activists back then that were, you know, in the Stonewall and right. So I feel like we're kind of circling back around to that era, right? Where we're like, oh, we got to do this shit all over again, all over again, one more again. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, like, how do we take care of ourselves? Like, is the next 4 years is gonna be some shit, right? Like, I
think what's important,
how do we deal with this?
Yeah, well, for a couple ways. One, it's not the next 4 years. And every time I hear somebody say, we got 3 months and or 3 years, and I'm like, y'all, this program has been in play since Reagan was in office.
Okay.
It's more than 4 years.
Yeah.
What happened when Obama got elected?
Yeah.
It stimulated the Black community to think, oh, look, we have arrived. Yeah. The same way that when the Civil Rights Act of 1968 passed, they said, oh, look, we're equal now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We progressed just enough to almost make us forget how bad it was. That's what happened.
That's a good point, yeah.
Stonewall happened June 28, 1975. My birthday's June 28th.
Get it.
I wasn't born yet.
Better cancer. Get it.
But that happened at a time where that was less than 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago. That queer and trans folks were still fighting for visibility, equality, and just the right to be alive.
Yeah.
And so when the DOMA Act passed and gay marriage was federally legal, that happened during the Obama administration, again, it was a moment like,
yeah.
But still, no no, not really.
Yeah.
Not really, ain't nothing constitutionally that has changed. And so I think what people are recognizing is, unless it is in the Constitution, unless it has been totally ratified by the Supreme Court, it can always roll back. And I think that's what people are starting to understand. There's a level of illiteracy when it comes to understanding how the government actually operates.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it's around, legislation or how the executive branch operates or the judicial branch, very few people really know what actually goes on. And so sometimes we get this glimmer of hope of like, wow, we've made progress. God.
Yeah.
You can change your gender markers. You can have, you can reassign whoever you are. That's so cool. It's like, yeah, but they can change that. That's not federal. They go everywhere.
Yeah.
Change their mind.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing now with this particular administration is, one, what I find ironic is they laid out exactly what they were going to do back in 2020. People weren't reading Project 2025 because it's over 900 pages long. People thought, oh, this is just a book that some weirdos wrote, and they're completely, right extremists. But the people who authored Project 2025 are now in the administration. They're now ADC. They have titles and power now. So when they laid out exactly what they plan to do, it didn't create enough of a disruption for people to
be concerned. Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. For me, when they rolled back Roe versus Wade, I was like, what? Hold on now. That was a whistle.
Yeah.
For some.
Yeah.
To it's about to get bad.
Yeah.
And then here we are.
Yeah.
And so I think the way that we care for ourselves now is by paying closer attention to what's happening, by asking more questions, by having more conversations like this one, by doing enough research to where you can be informed but not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And not avoiding what's happening. Because I think avoidance just delays the impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't act like it's not there.
Yeah.
And so I think that some people reach out to me all the time like, oh, thank you so much for reminding me to take a deep breath. Or thank you so much for reminding me that it's okay to turn off your screen for a little while. Yeah. To go for a walk or something. And I think that prioritizing your well-being is going to be essential. Yeah. Because it's not just the next 4 years. This particular administration is trying to modify the Constitution so that presidents can serve longer than 4 years.
Right.
So that they don't have limitations on their terms.
Yeah.
So many things are going to be changed probably by the time he reaches the end of his first year that are still going to be in place a decade from now. Yeah. That's what I think people are kind of having a difficult time grappling, which can create a lot of stress, which I understand.
I saw a video the other day about this guy, this trans man, who was like, I am afraid to fly because my passport shows that I'm a female. And he's like, they're taking the passports from these trans people and detaining them. And I'm like, and he's like, I want to go see my nephew, my baby nephew. And he had this toy. It was so sad. He's like, I have this toy. He's like, I can't even give it to him in person because I'm afraid to fly. And so these are the emotions and the situations that people are dealing with inside of themselves. And I felt for him. I was like, man, you got to go see your baby nephew. You can't just hold this toy and be like, it's your right to go see this little boy who wants to, know you too. So it's like, how do we maneuver through those big feelings and big emotions and this administration and all of the regulations that they're putting out to suppress us? So
I think I saw something on TikTok. There's this actress who is on the show Euphoria.
Okay.
She's a trans white woman actress, and she was sharing that when she renewed her passport, because that's what's happening for a lot of trans Americans, is that they're going to renew their passport, or their passport has been renewed. Yeah. Almost without their permission, where their gender marker has been changed to the gender assigned at birth. Right. Which makes it difficult, if not impossible, for them to leave the country. Yeah. At all. Yeah. And I can only imagine how devastating that feels. Absolutely. And how restrictive that feels and how much fear comes with that, because it's the feeling of if they change my passport and they make it so that I can't leave the country, what else will they restrict me from? Yeah. And I think what's important is while that type of critical thinking is valuable, is to recognize when a person is starting to like catastrophize, or they're going too far forward into the future where it's like, okay, we're not there yet. It's important to be aware of what's possible, but doing our best to say, okay, what can I do to take care of myself right now? Now, in that example, I can't give this to my nephew in person, but maybe I can make a video on my phone and I can send it to his mom and I can send the package in the mail and I could be there when he opens it. It's like finding the way to access joy amidst the chaos that we live in is always my encouragement to people, because it's going to get worse long before it gets better. And it's going to get so bad that even if it gets a little bit better, it's going to feel like progress, which we've already experienced. And so the goal is for us to have long-standing and long-lasting change when the changes do come, and not just these little peak moments of joy in between a bunch of trash, which I think is what we've done so far. So like giving people a sense of hope. Like I know, you know, a video that's gotten a lot of traction is about the power of a general strike, which on, you know, February 28th, the intention is to do a general strike, which is people like no spending. If you can avoid going to work, don't go to work that day. Basically like an intentional shutdown across the board. Laborers, workers, gig workers, everyone. And there's people in comments who are like, well, I work in healthcare. I'm a doctor or a nurse. I can't just not show up to work. And it's like, how do I support in solidarity? Maybe you support within your spaces. Maybe y'all all go to lunch at the same time or whatever. You know, it's like finding little ways to take care of each other and take care of ourselves, I think is really important. So it's not easy though. And it's not intended to be easy.
I think it's most important, which you touched on, is like the community. Like we're not alone. We're all going through it together. It's not just an attack on you or because you're white or like yellow or green, you know. It's just, especially in the queer spaces, like our queer community, we're all in it. And so I love that. Like just to find the bits and pieces of joy wherever you can. And try to maintain that as much as possible.
That's the best we can do. And
I
also recognizing that, like, as a cisgender woman, I'm not directly impacted by things that impact trans people. However, there are trans people that are part of my community that are. And if you have the capacity to offer yourself as a resource for that person, I want somebody to go with them when they need to renew their passport. If they need somebody to support them in, you know, in whatever way they can publicly, it's like finding what you can do, because there's different ways to be revolutionary. Everybody's not going to be on the front lines. Everybody's not going to be called to be active on social media. Everybody's not going to be able to participate in a boycott or a general strike. But there's so many ways for people to still support the cause that doesn't compromise their well-being. So it's like figuring out what that is for you and just stand in that.
Love that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about because we had a conversation and you were mentioning how you've felt held and supported by your family being a queer person growing up. And I was like, wait, what? Like your peeps were just there and they were like just lovingly, like, you know, supporting you and your queerness.
As a young adult, yes. But as a little person, no. I had examples of queer folks when I was a teen. Had like, you know, big cousins who were gay, and I was always like,
but you saw it
when I was like, ooh, yes, I need to know more about that. But the family I was raised in was a very like religious, you know, heavily Christian family, and so there was a lot of like disparaging remarks about people. So when I came out, it was after being married, divorced, having a child. Came out at 29.
Really?
Yeah. But when I came out, I was immediately embraced by an entirely new family.
Wow.
So I got aunties, I got grandmas, I got uncles, and like all these queer folks who took me in such a way that let me know that even though it took my family of origin a little while to come up to like to get their shit together, basically. That I wasn't going to have to go through it alone. And that was really empowering because it was because of the conversations that I had with my queer aunties, shout out to Queen and Yoli, because I was able to sit with these women who were the same age as my mother, the same age as my aunties and grandmothers, that I was able to find language and I was able to find a sense of empowerment so that when I went back to my family of origin, I was able to go back with pride
Yeah.
and not with shame. What I initially felt when I first came out.
Okay.
So I feel like I don't see a lot of that though anymore.
No.
Elders and sages connecting with the
I don't. Yeah, I think that's why it's important to me. Like we're up there. We're getting there to the elderly stage.
I can't get my AARP card yet, but man, over here.
But that's why I think it's really important, you know, because I have a son with my ex-wife who's 10.
Okay.
And for his generation to come up and be like, hey, you know, even though both his moms are queer.
Yeah.
But, you know, even if it wasn't and I had a husband or my ex-wife had a husband and he was raised by heterosexual people, like we wanted to it's important to just let them know, that generation coming up, like, hey, you get to live in a world where you get to express, and although the administration is saying otherwise, but we get to, you know, be like humanize people in like whatever self-expression, sexuality, whatever that looks like. And I think it's important as elders to like remind them like, hey, it's okay. I know the world says
otherwise, but
that you ain't shit, but you are. And we get to remind people. So I'm that's beautiful that you had, you know, just this family in your corner, even though your original family were like,
it took a little while. And I realized, you know, my parents, I mean, what people say are young parents. My parents were 19 when they had me.
oh wow.
And so I remember when I first came out, they were still very rooted in the church. But what took place for them was a bit of like a spiritual awakening.
Okay.
And once they had that spiritual awakening, they were like, oh, we get it.
Cool. We over it. Right.
Oh, you guys stop paying that church, thank God. It took
praising the church.
To kind of come in. And what I appreciate about my family of origin, my mom and my dad in particular, is that once they came in, they stayed in.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? It was never a waiver. It was never like a backpedal. It was like, here, we got you, we support you, so much so that like my coming out journey inspired. I have another sibling who came out recently last year, and she had also been in a marriage for almost 20 years before she came out. And I remember my dad reaching out to me and being like, had we not experience what we did with you, we wouldn't be able to embrace her right away without delay. Have you fellowsively? Hey, been there, sis. But I think it's valuable for us to be not only just like an example of what queerness can look like, but also a reminder for the younger generation to know, like, reach out to us, ask questions, because I know sometimes online and in real life, there's discourse of like, I don't get it. Like, no, we get it. So that you can be free.
You can get it. I love that. But to wrap things up, like what advice, because I know there's people still struggling, right? Especially in like those states that just don't accept gay marriages, or the smaller towns and like the less rural areas where, you know, little Kimmy is like, I'm alone. Like I've seen a few videos on YouTube where they're like, I hate this town. I think he was in Mississippi. This Black, like, very feminine presenting male who was like, I hate this city because nobody accepts me. But he was still with his jewelry and his nails and his little pigtails. But like, he was still like, yo, this is me. But people don't accept me. But he was like depressed. He's like, I'm depressed. I wish I had more friends. I wish people got me. I wish my family got me. So what kind of support would you offer? Or
don't come to
beautiful words.
Don't come to Los Angeles. No, because it's crowded. No, and I say this because a lot of queer folks that are in smaller towns or rural areas or just like less progressive areas, they go to the big cities. Because that's where they feel
the population.
Population. So for me, like advice, I think for a young queer person is that your safety is what's most important. So finding community is valuable. So if there's only one other queer kid in your school, be their best friend. Like, you know, link up, find ways to spend time together, find others like yourself, because being isolated when you're in an environment that's not progressive, that's not safe, that's hateful, that's very dangerous.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's I think of queer folks who, you know, in our queer history have been murdered, brutalized. They were isolated. And so it's finding community is valuable. Online community can be great. A person can be super supportive. And taking the next step of saying, you know, safely, of course, who's in my area, you know, also places, if you do live in a rural area and there is a larger city that's drivable for you or maybe by train, there's usually an LGBTQ center that's there. So I'm tapping into those centers. They're usually nonprofits. They have programs that are free, if not completely affordable, where you can find counseling, where you can find medical support, where you can also find communal support, clothing, jobs, etc. That's what those centers are for. And a lot of people don't tap into them. They don't take advantage of them, especially younger folks. And so queer youth is, I would say, like a population that's most in need of support. Because sometimes the focus is on the adults, like marriage, adoption, and that kind of stuff, which we get is important, but making sure the queer youth feel protected and feel safe, I think, is valuable. So as the queer elders, and the queer adults reach out, go to the high schools, not weirdly, but like, you know, connect with, you know, the like counselors, the preachers, the teachers, and like let them know, like, hey, you know, I just want to know, do you guys have a club on campus for queer youth? Or if you're looking for a campus advisor, like maybe I can support that way. So it's also, again, back to the point of community. I think the chaos that's happening in our world right now is an invitation for us to create genuine community. And it's a matter of us deciding how we want to do that and what role we want to play. And then just continuously doing that until we actually see the outcome that we hope for.
Wow. I love that. I love that so much because that gave me ideas. I was like, oh, I could just go out to like a public school or like, you know, a corporation of some sort and be like, hey, you know, do any of your queer youth need support or help, or even develop programs ourselves that can support.
I mean, that stuff, especially because most queer folks, I'm not gonna say most, but a lot of Black queer folks that I know are highly educated, certified, licensed, etc., have tons of experience in different ways. And if there's a way for us to offer that support in that way, why not? Somebody who's a teacher.
So I love that. I love that so much. Okay, so we are at the end. I know it went by. It went by real fast.
It did go by fast.
But is there anything I haven't addressed or asked you that you'd like to express or speak on?
Let's see.
That's on your heart right now.
What's on my heart right now is wanting to encourage people who are feeling that call. Like we were saying before we started, like that call to kind of do media or that call to speak out. If you're feeling the call, whether it's to create, whether it's to be an activist, whether it's to be a teacher, a leader, a coach, now is the time.
Absolutely.
If I do, I will blow it. It's don't wait for the perfect storm to happen because we're literally already in it.
We in it for sure.
So it's just, if you feel the call, go ahead and answer. That's what I chose to do at the top of this year. Instagram apparently appreciated it, but also like all these other irons in the fire right now. So I think as creatives, it's and particularly as queer folks, we're used to existing like on the fringe. We're used to being the ones. I think there's a lot more of us out there.
Absolutely.
Not just queer folks, but just creatives in general. I think finding each other, linking up, but then just taking that step to speak up. Speak out. Like, what do you have to lose at this point? We're losing a lot already. So don't lose your voice.
Don't lose your voice. And we need you. We need you to speak up, to speak out. Your message, your medicine.
All that.
We're calling you forward.
Come on in.
Come through.
It's really nice over here.
That part. What she said. Yes. What are your pronouns?
My pronouns are she, her, hers. Or sire. No, just kidding. I tried that on for like a day. It didn't quite last. No, she, her, hers. Those are my pronouns. Keisean Raines. That's me on all the socials.
Tell us where to find you.
Google me, Keisean Raines. It's Keisean Raines. That's my handle on every social media platform: Instagram, TikTok. Blue Sky, which I have put a post on there. Is that
Is that a thing? I've never heard of it.
Blue Sky is like the alternative to Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter.
Okay.
It's like another.
I don't use it. Yeah, I don't do Twitter.
But yeah, but with me, I post my content myself. I'm very much a one-person show right now. Yeah, I'm the person responding to the comments on Instagram. I'm the one who responds to my DM. So if you want to get in touch with me, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. And her messages are amazing. Like,
thank you.
They inspire me. So go check her out. Thank you so much for being on the program. I loved having you. It was a beautiful discussion. Thank you so much for all your knowledge and your wisdom and your beautiful messages and your reels. Like, you keep us in check. You keep us supported. You keep us informed. And and even just the wellness tools that you provide, I think is so needed. So
yeah.
You're appreciated.
Very welcome. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me, and take a deep breath.
Yes, breaths, and more breaths. But yes, thank you so much, and I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Support your queer content creators. Support your Black folks. Happy Black History Month. See y'all next time.